So we are now live on the Quilting Business Success podcast and webinar, and we're waiting for one more panelist to join us tonight.
Technological difficulties.
Yes, well, isn't that the way of the world? I am Andrew Weaver, and I work here at Gammill. I've got Bobby Ware with me.
I'm Bobby, and I work in tech support, help people with all their issues all day. So I look forward to this part of the day where we're talking about good things.
And I'll go ahead and start with our first guest that we have, Kimberly, and we're certainly hoping that Lorna can pop in and join us here in just a minute. But let me go ahead and ask you, Kimberly, where are you? What part of the country do you live in?
I'm in Minnesota, just north of the Twin Cities.
Okay, awesome. How long have you been long arm quilting?
About almost 14 years now. So yeah, started 2010 at the very beginning, in a quilt shop, in a local quilt shop. She had just opened, and there was one girl that started right before me. She went and took all the training, and then she taught me while I was there. And always felt like I was getting things kind of watered down. So I took the manual home and started reading and taking notes, and there's how I truly got all my knowledge.
So if I understand that correctly, so she had gotten some maybe hands-on training or gone to a class or something, and then you got it kind of secondhand, and that was just enough to be dangerous. So.
Secondhand is never quite as good as firsthand.
I think so. And I always felt like I was missing something. So, yep, I took that book home and I would read it. I took it on vacation, would call back to the shop and tell girls, try this tab, try this button, let me know how it worked. What did you find out? And so there's how we kind of all ended up growing together at the quilt shop. So
And how long ago did you say this was?
it was at the very beginning of 2010.
Okay.
Yep. So
was this your quilt shop that the machine was in, or how did that work out that it was in a shop?
it was a brand new quilt shop, and she had started it mostly wanting to be long arming with selling fabric. And then so she really wanted long arming to be her main thing. So
Well, it's hard to beat the profit margin of long arming. I mean,
right.
yeah.
And so is this still the same quilting place that you're at now?
No, I worked for her for 7 years, and then I went back to what I was originally doing, which was cabinet making. And because the pay is a little bit better, it's hard to live
Cabinet
on,
making. Okay.
yes, it's hard to live on quilt shop pay, but yeah. So, and once I was back at cabinet making, about 6 months later, my husband says, I can tell you miss it. You really miss your long arming. And I did. He goes, you're not the same. And I go, I miss it so much. He goes, let's go get one. So we did. We ordered one, and it came in October of what year? 17. And then that's when I started. And I did it part-time in the evenings, and all on weekends. So that's
So you went out in 2017 and got a Gammill.
Yes, I did.
So the one that you'd used at the shop was a Statler?
Yes. She had 2 Gammill Statlers. And after her 5-year mark, she decided to sell them and buy a different brand.
Oh, that's an unusual thing.
Right, very unusual. She was sold that they would be faster. Well, now you've got a whole team of workers trying to relearn something, different programs and everything. So we ended up, I stayed for 2 years after that. And when I did finally time to buy, it was the Gammill. I did not like the other brand.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of well, I don't I have to be careful with this question because I don't want to. It's important that, you know, other machines, other software systems, they have to stand or fall on their own merits. But was there something in particular about the Gammill that you had worked with that made it obvious for you that you wanted to choose that for your own machine?
The Gammill is heavy duty industrial. In those 5 years, we never had a guy have to come out and fix, repair, or do anything. We were able to keep it clean, keep it oiled, and it ran beautifully, you know, 12 to 16 hours a day, every day for those 5 years that she had it. It's a workhorse.
Mm-hmm.
The other machines, when they came, we had the tech guys out a lot. They were out fixing, repairing, replacing some parts.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Yeah, I was sold with Gammill.
Mm-hmm. Well, for sure. I mean, if you're using it for a business, it puts more of an emphasis on the reliability, the durability of the machine. I know that when a lot of times people think, well, I'm only going to do 5 or 10 quilts a year, so I don't necessarily need to buy the best, and maybe you don't. But when you're going to do a lot of quilting, that's when it becomes really obvious. So.
The the software was also a big thing. It was Gammill to me is it's easy, it's logical, the process. The other one, it was a little bit unknown, too many unknowns. Like,
Mhm.
why is it doing this? What do I have to get it to do?
Hmm.
It took more.
Mhm. Even after 2 years, that's interesting. Well, so Kimberly, you started then with the Statler machine because that's the one you knew and were familiar with. Do you still have the same machine today that you got in 2015?
Yes, I have. I bought the long one, the 14 footer, because I wanted to be able to make sure that I could take on the big ones. And I'd say at some point I was doing a custom, and it was taking a lot longer than I had anticipated. And my edge to edges, their due dates were coming. They were coming up quickly. And my husband came down and says, boy, wouldn't it be nice if you had a second machine? And I'm like, I was thinking the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So once that custom quilt was done, we really started looking for a second, and we did get a second machine about 2 years in. So
Mm-hmm.
So you bought that first machine in 2017, um
15.
2015.
17.
Oh,
17.
17. My
Yep,
bad.
I'm
17.
paying better attention than you are.
You are. You are.
Yep.
How did you pay for that first machine?
We did a home equity loan. Yep. And we had both machines paid off in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, and by all the money that we made, paid it off, bought batting thread, it stayed totally in the business to make, and no profit for those first 4 years, but that was okay because I was working at the cabinet shop back again. And so then once we had the machines paid off, it was time to go full-time long arming, and I was able to now live the dream.
So you just took those first 4 years and just shoveled it right back into getting your business paid off there.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Pay it all off, and then it becomes profit. after that.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
So when you at that point you had two 30-inch probably Statler machines, and you could operate them both at the same time.
Absolutely, yep.
And did you upgrade any of them from what they were originally, or are they the same?
They both have not necessarily an upgrade, but when I purchased them, I have the light bar. To me, that was important because
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a
That's a big
lower
thing.
level. The zipper leads, those are pretty important to me. I can load my backings on the leaders before, while one machine's running, can load the next quilt back on leaders. When I'm done, zip it in, roll it, smooth it, and I'm ready to rock. I don't have to pin. I did do the quick change feet on one machine, and I did the pro bobbin winder, the professional bobbin winder, so that I can wind bobbins, just set it, walk away, and keep on moving. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to stand there. So those are the things that I've added to my machine. Or
So when you first started your business, and as you've progressed along, in the beginning, did you know, because of your previous experience in the quilting shop, did you have a good feel whether there's going to be enough customers, enough market for what you were going to do?
oh yeah, definitely. While I was working at the quilt shop, people started to notice me, and they would come in and they'd ask for just me to do their quilts. So on the top of their order form, it was Kim Quilt, Kim Quilt. So, they started to definitely know. When I left, there were a few sad ladies. And then and I just knew that I could do it. I'd run into ladies at the grocery store or wherever. And my advertising is I did make up cards there. When we bought our machines, we had business cards made so that when I would run into ladies in the area, hand out my cards. So
Very smart. Very smart.
and then we do have a little website and Facebook, and I go to guild meetings. I will go to quilt shows, quilt shops, shop hops, the bus trips, anywhere to meet quilt ladies.
What would you say is your biggest source of reaching new customers?
Reaching them, it is word of mouth, but Google, just putting my daughter, put me on Google searches, made sure that I had my little tag or whatever. And I ask everybody, and a lot lately are Google. They found me from just internet searches.
That's funny. It's I was just thinking, so many of my coworkers and my friends, which are the same group of people, uh they have come to realize that I never hardly go anywhere without checking Google reviews. We're gonna say, well, where are we gonna get dinner? And I'll pull up and I'll sort by my Google reviews on the maps,
Mhm.
and I'll say, well, this place has 4.5 stars, and you can't go wrong with that. It's amazing how the internet now, um, uh, it it makes it more likely that you can find somebody that can fulfill your needs. It's really cool that way.
Very true.
Um, so at this point, you've retired from cabinet making.
Yes.
And how many hours a week do you work with your two Statlers?
About 40 hours a week. And those 40 can be any time during the day. So gives me some freedom. Go visit mom, lunch with the girlfriends, maybe work more into the night or get up early and work in jammies. So it's still about 40 hours, a work week, but they're when I want to work them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, do you do mostly edge to edge, or do you do some custom What about that?
It is mostly edge to edge. I will do one custom a month. So they just get
So
last
that's like a set thing, one custom a month?
one a month. Yep.
Okay.
So that I can make sure that I get the edge to edges done. So
So that's a maybe a business tip that I want to point out to people who might go past you quickly if I don't call it out and bring attention to it. What I'm hearing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lady calls up on the phone or she meets you with her quilt top and she says, how long will it take for me to get it back? And you say, well, were you thinking to have it custom or edge to edge? And the lady says, well, I was thinking about custom. And you say, well, in that case, I wouldn't be able to have it until the middle of next year. But if you wanted to have it edge to edge, it would be 3 weeks from now. Or is that what I'm hearing you say?
exactly. Yep. So I'm at about a 1 month turnaround for edge to edge. My custom is about 6 months out.
Mm-hmm. Right. So if they want it quick, they'll be choosing the custom or the edge to edge.
The edge to edge. Yes.
Yeah. It's sometimes people will ask as they're building their business and as they're handling clients, they will ask, what do I do about all these people that ask me to do custom because it's squeezing out my edge to edge work? And your approach of having a separate calendar for each seems to work really well in it, without getting into arguments with your customers about when you can have it done.
Right. True. Yeah.
How long does it generally take to get one of a custom done? Would you say average?
About 2 weeks. There's, I mean, there's custom where it's, something in the middle and just borders. That still falls under my custom order. I have to do something special for it. So, that one it might be less, a couple of days, but it still takes time away that I have to focus, stay on it, stay with it. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, how are your rates set up? Custom is maybe quoted individually, but how do you charge for your edge to edges?
By the square inch. So, all of my edge to edge are 2.5 cents square inch. Custom starts at 5 cents and goes up. So, and then I give them a range, where I think depending on what they ask for, we'll go over, how much they want. And I do give them a range. And then as we get close, I'll give them a call and say, this is about where it's going to be,
Mhm.
just you.
Like, what would you say an average edge to edge and custom, like a queen size quilt would average?
Yep, a queen size is about 200 for edge to edge. So custom, if it's very simple, 400, and it could go up to 1,000. It
Mhm.
really depends on
How much you have to put into it.
what I have to do on it. Yep.
Mhm.
Your Judy Niemeyer quilts have a lot of odd shapes, and I've got to fill in and curve. So, yep.
Mhm. Do you have a minimum for small quilts?
My minimum is a little on the low side. I think it's 35, and
Mhm.
I've been hearing ladies say 50,
Mhm.
but I'm still at 35 for a runner or something small.
Mhm. And do you keep track of, like, do you have a thread charge or a per bobbin rate or something like that?
I do have a thread charge, and it's just a little chart. If it's between this many square inches and that many, it's 4, 6, 8, or 10. And it just depends on the size of the quilt. I don't like counting bobbins or trying to have to keep track. So it's just a set price for the size of the quilt.
Mhm.
So about how many quilts would you say you do per year?
per year. So my lowest year was 168. Last year was my best year at 431.
So last year was a busy year for you.
It really was, yes.
Now, I feel like I need to add something here because a lot of people are going to listen to this on the podcast. And what you don't see is that when she gave us those numbers, I can't describe her face, but I think you have every reason to be proud of yourself and the work that you've done
Yeah.
and the business that you've built. And I could see that flash across your face real quickly. And I just wanted to call that out for the people that can't see it. There's a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication and some ripping out quilts in the late night hours when you did some quilting that you couldn't be proud of. And anyway, there's a lot that goes into that, and I just saw that briefly. You've done a tremendous job.
Thank you. Yep. And yeah, if you don't like the way it looks when it first starts, for me, I always stand there. I watch that first 6 inches or, that first square of quilting. If it doesn't look like it's the right size, I don't like the way it looks, stop that machine, rip it out now. Don't wait till it gets a whole row done or a whole border before you decide to rip.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a big one for me. I will stand there, watch it, and make sure I'm happy.
Okay, I can see you just answered possibly one of the questions I was going to ask later, which is what is something that you wish someone would have told you when you first started? One of them is that pause it if you don't love it. Don't let it do the entire row before you decide to get rid of it.
Absolutely. Yep. And pause it, run around to the back, check your tension, make sure you're happy. And if tension looks great, you love the size, press continue and move on. Yep. Keep on going.
A couple other questions, Kimberly, about the services that you offer. Sometimes people will sell batting, they'll sell wide back fabric or other things. Do you have some of those things to help people complete their projects?
Yep. I do offer batting. So I have Hobbs 80/20 and then I have warm and natural and warm and white. I bind for people. I will piece their backs. I have pieced a couple of t-shirt quilts, but found that I just don't have time anymore. So I have a real good friend that I refer them to. She will piece t-shirt quilts for ladies and then I'll quilt them. So we just kind of work together.
Mm-hmm. Some of the people that do t-shirt quilts I've met people who that's the core of their business is t-shirt quilts. And I think like anything else, when you do it all the time, you get really good at it.
Right.
Um, what was the hardest part of growing your business? You got big enough to get a second machine in 2 years. But what was the hard part for you?
I think that February is always a little slow for me for some reason. So that first February was kind of scary. You're like, okay, I'm down to the last quilt in my lineup. What do I do? And as soon as I said it out loud, the phone rang and we were right back on track. So there's always that, okay, am I going to have enough work? No.
Even if you don't say it out loud and you think it
Yeah.
happens.
It happens. Yep. I walked upstairs and I'm going, honey, I'm on the last quilt. And he goes, it's okay. We're fine. Maybe you take a day to do something for yourself. Nope. The phone started ringing.
Well, if you did want to take a vacation, February is a great time to do it.
Right now, who would you say has been your biggest cheerleader throughout all this?
Well, my husband for sure, because he gave
I
me.
knew that was going to be one.
Yeah. He
from
gave
your
me
previous.
the family room for my business, not the very, very basement. So I'm not in a dungeon. I have two big windows. And of course, my daughter, She helped me with the website, with all the Facebook things, just anything like that, the social media
Those
part.
youngsters are so good when it comes to the electronic part, isn't it?
Yeah, she did a pretty good job. You know, I just send her pictures and say, put something on Facebook. um, I can do it, but why not? Let's use the kids, make them do it. Yeah, friends, family, everybody's really been there for me. Sister shares every post. I, you know,
Well, and I knew when you said the part about earlier in the interview about your husband kind of looked at you and said, "You miss it, don't you?" I knew that he was going to be one of those big cheerleaders.
yeah, he knew it.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Okay, so Lorna, wait, I never even got to the first question with her.
We need to find out
What-
who this lady is and where she's from.
Besides technically challenged.
Oh no,
I'm
that
from,
technological challenges are an ever-present thing in our world. So do not feel bad about that. We want you to be able to relax and yeah, don't worry about that. We're glad we got you on now.
I'm from a small town just 15 miles across the Canadian-US border in British Columbia called Oliver. Actually, Andrew has actually been to my place.
Yes, I have. I was excited to see your name come up on the list for today. So,
Well, I
go ahead.
haven't seen any Canadians, so I thought, well, I'll throw my name in the hat and see if you're interested in a Canadian point of view.
Yes,
Yes.
well, you're always up north looking down on us from there. So Lorna, how long have you been long arm quilting?
Well, the first time was, what did I say, 15 years ago. I had a lady friend buy actually, she bought I'll answer both questions at the same time. She bought a Grace frame with a domestic machine. And I put it together and then said to her, this is not going to work for you to quilt quilts for other people. And I had a different friend who had a Gammill. And I said, if you want to buy a quilting machine to make a business out of it, this is what you need. So we put it together and she bought it and paid for it. And I had it in my quilt shop for a number of years. And then I sold her the quilt shop. So I went and did some traveling and what have you. And she ran the quilt shop, but her health wasn't well. So she ended up moving the Gammill home. And 8 years ago, she passed away and I bought the Gammill from her estate. So it's the same one I started on. I just had a little bit of a gap.
So when you first started, you were working at a quilting shop?
I owned a quilt
You
shop,
owned-
yes.
You started out owning a quilt shop.
Yes.
Well, and you're in your shop right now, as a matter of fact.
No, I'm in my
No?
studio in my basement.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't have a quilt shop anymore.
Okay.
When
Well,
you
I
came to
just-
visit me, Andrew, remember it was in a garage.
I misjudged what I was seeing behind your
Oh
shoulder.
yeah, no, this is my little lady cave.
Awesome.
Little lady.
Awesome. So when you got this machine originally the first time, it was so your friend had this other machine and obviously it wasn't going to be able to do quilts for customers.
No.
So you got it specifically for that purpose, the Gammill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So with all the different brands that are available, and I know in Canada there's several other brands available, why was Gammill the choice for you?
Well, there weren't that many brands available back in 2008. And because I had a different girlfriend that had a Gammill, when she had her Gammill delivered to her place, actually Paul Statler came with them and explained the Statler system to her and everything. That's how long ago she's had it. But it was just, to me, it was a slam dunk. There was nothing that looked like it would break on the machine. The stand itself was extremely stable. The bars weren't going to sag in the middle at any time, and it was the way to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So at that point it was a very early Statler because it
Yes.
came delivered by Paul. Do you have the same, it's the same exact machine today? Have you done upgrades or changes to the computer system or software?
It wasn't this machine that was delivered by Paul. It was my girlfriend's.
Okay. All right. Missed that.
Yes, I've upgraded the computer system. I bought a new computer, I think 7 years ago, because I didn't dare turn the old one off because it wouldn't turn back on again. So getting a new computer allowed me to upgrade to CS7, which was so different from CS. What is it? Was it 4? I don't even think I saw 5 or 6, but we went from, oh no, I did see 6, but we went from 4 to 6 to 7, and it's been just such a dramatic difference.
So how did you know there was enough long arm business available in your town way back then with that first machine for you to support yourself?
Well, didn't really. And there's a very strong quilting guild. And at the time I was quite happy being in my own little world in my store. And so that was just an automatic add-on to the store. And yeah, so we just did it. I mean, my girlfriend, because she paid for it, it was easy for me to say, sure, let's do it. I don't have a problem. I had the room and she had the money.
Right. You moved a few bolts of fabric from over here to over there to make room for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how did you grow or increase your customer base at that time?
Basically, it was customers coming into the store going, oh, you have a long arm, what do you charge? Like, what's your turnaround time? That sort of thing. And it just sort of grew from there.
And do you do any like electronic advertising, or you stay pretty much word of mouth? What about
Facebook? I do Facebook. I have a Facebook account under my business name and everything.
I saw that, yeah.
And we have the Country Register up here. I know down in the States, the Country Register is mostly tea shops. Up in Canada, it's all quilt shops and fabric stores. So it's pretty cool that you pick that up and you can see every quilt shop in British Columbia pretty much.
So when you got this machine, where did you find the money to purchase it?
Well, that's another interesting little story. Because we knew the machine was for sale, and Heather's son phoned me and said, would you like to buy it? And I just sort of giggled and said, yeah, I have no room and I have no money. I lived in an 1,100 square foot condo, and it was like that. Yeah, that's not going to happen. And a girlfriend of mine said, well, I have the money and I have a garage, so let's buy the quilting machine. So we did. She used her line of credit, which she wasn't using. I paid back the line of credit until it was paid off. I paid the interest and everything for it, and I quilted in her garage.
Wow. And did you have any other job at that time, or is that?
Yes. At the time I was working 5 days a week at a store here in town. I still work there, but only 4 days a week, and hopefully no days a week soon.
Gotcha. So what are you doing now?
I'm an office person in a department store.
Okay. So you still do both.
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent.
So do you work while the machine is working? I mean, you start a row and then you go back to your laptop, or?
Yeah, I either go back to my laptop or back to my sewing machine, or whatever I have happened to be going at the moment. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like they're only 3 feet from each other. So.
So as far as your quilting, how many hours a week would you say you put in to quilting?
I probably do about 30 hours a week.
You stay pretty busy, don't you?
I do.
Do you do custom quilting as well, or just edge to
I
edge?
do. Yeah, I do custom. I don't get very many because it's too expensive, but I do the occasional one. I did Judy Niemeyer was my last one. And it was pricey.
So how do you do your rates? I know that that Canadian pesos aren't worth as much as American dollars, but
yeah, I charge by the square foot, not by the square inch. I know that some people up here have converted to the square inch, but I just find it easy and my customers understand square foot, so that works out. And we are actually less expensive up here than you guys are down there. So if there were Americans across the border that wanted to bring quilts up here, they'd really save money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They
Well,
just, they
plug
just,
for your business
Canadians
right
just
there.
don't seem to want to pay it. They don't understand.
So what is your rate for like a queen size in because it's hard to look at the percent price when most of us are thinking in inches and you're thinking in square feet, which is 144 square inches. But what would an average queen size quilt be in Canadian dollars?
It's about $185.
That is pretty affordable from an American point of view.
Absolutely, especially with the dollar being what it is, it would be very affordable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the different, what is the,
I don't know.
ratio?
I think that's
about
something
35
like
cents right now.
120.
Yeah, it's about 35 cents right now.
Mm-hmm. So,
Difference.
The
an
difference.
American dollar will buy you $1.35 in Canadian pesos.
$1.30, $1.35. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
But grocery prices are the same. We used to go down across the line and get groceries in the States, and we don't anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing when you're close to the border like that. You can buy things on whichever side is more affordable. Do you have a minimum charge for a small quilt?
I do. I have a $50 minimum, and I am pretty hard and fast that I stick to it.
Mm-hmm. And do you have a thread charge that's separate, or is that all inclusive?
No, I don't charge a thread charge or a loading fee or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. I think your hand might have covered your microphone there.
Oh,
Because you
sorry.
went out at just the end, but we did get your answer. How about things like selling batting? What battings do you have available for sale?
I do sell Hobbs 80/20, and I have black and the cream color, and I also have the wool, the Hobbs wool.
Mm-hmm. And things like binding a quilt or piecing the backing for people or making a t-shirt quilt. Do you get into those things?
I try not to do t-shirt quilts. I have done a couple memory quilts, but they had jeans in them instead of t-shirts, which was a little easier. But I do binding for other people. Absolutely. And piecing their backings. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, how many quilts per year would you say you did, like at the beginning of when you started and versus now?
I would say at the beginning, it was probably between 50 and 60 quilts the first year. And then after that, like now I do about 150, working 4 days a week and doing this part-time.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that'll jump up after I've retired.
Mm-hmm. What would your backlog be right now? I mean, if somebody said, "Hey, I have this quilt that I need to get done as soon as possible," is that a couple weeks or a month or two?
It's probably a couple weeks that I could sneak it in. I'm just finishing a customer that brought me 18 quilts at once. So I did four of hers and then 2 of somebody else's, and 4 of hers and two of somebody else's. So I try to keep it to about 6 weeks, no more than 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What was the hardest part of growing your business?
Probably wondering whether I was going to have any business, and then wondered whether I was going to have enough time to get it all done.
Those two are very separate concerns, aren't they?
They are. And I was a little bit worried that it was going to take me a whole lot longer to pay off the machine than what I had spent on it, and thought I might be crazy, but they just keep coming.
So we talk to people a lot of times that are either getting ready to or in the beginning stages of doing a business. And that thing that we just touched on is oftentimes one of their major worries or fears is about getting business. You got any like gems of wisdom that you would say to somebody that's just starting out and they don't know?
I would say to find out what your competition is doing, and don't worry about the competition. Just do what they do, but do it better. If you have to mark your prices down a little bit when you first start so that you're less than they are, so people start coming to you instead, and with the Statler, there isn't anything you can't do. And if they're doing hand driven or whatever, I know there's another lady here in town that does hand driven, and she's more expensive than I am, and she can't do what my Statler can do. So it doesn't bother me. So I would just say, find out what your competition can do and just do it better. Maybe do it a little bit less expensive for a while, and you'll get customers.
So who's been your biggest cheerleader? Who's your support system?
Well, I would have to say it was my friend Margaret who said, I've got the money and I've got the space if you're willing to do it. And my husband, he does most of the housekeeping. He does most of the laundry. That's why I'm able to work, 30 hours at my job and 30 hours at home, because he is really supportive. And he has no problem with me going downstairs all the time. He gave up his man cave when we moved here because I had to find a place to put the machine from the garage, because my girlfriend wanted to move into a seniors complex. So the only place we could put it was in the garage or in the basement, which meant he gave up his man cave. And I appreciate that. And he doesn't mind if I just say, I'm going downstairs, see you later.
Now that's a good husband, giving up his man cave.
He's a great husband. He did give up his man cave, but I don't complain when he watches sports. And he would do that 24/7 if I let him.
I can relate a little bit. Yeah.
So this question's a little bit different for you because you still have a 30-hour-a-week job that ties you down. But obviously the quilting money and the control of your personal schedule, what kind of impact has that made in your life?
It's been huge, because I started out working full-time, 8 hours a day, and I'm down to 6 hours a day, 4 days a week. And now going to be able to retire and still have an income coming in from the machine. So it's allowed me to just kind of ease out of the workforce and come into my little playroom and just enjoy myself all day long. And I think that coming in the new year when I retire, that'll even be just more fun. And it's also allowed us to buy a motorhome and we're planning a little bit of traveling and that sort of thing. So it should be great.
And when you mentioned retiring earlier, do you foresee yourself staying about the same amount of quilting or increasing, or what?
I hope it increases. I hope it increases a little bit more. I don't plan to take a whole lot of time away from the machine as far as traveling and maybe a month or that through the year, but I hope it increases a little bit more and turnaround is faster.
What is something that you wish someone would have told you that would have helped you at the very beginning of all this?
Well, it would have helped me at the very beginning of opening up a quilt shop, and it would have helped with the quilting machine, although I already knew it when I bought the quilting machine, is that although you might have a strong guild in your community, it doesn't necessarily mean to say that they're automatic customers. You have to work to win them over, and they're not as easy as you think, because they already know all the quilting connections and they already have a long arm quilter. So you have to make your presence known and offer a few bargains. And like for a long time, I did their charity quilts for free, just so that I got some good faith with the guild, so that people would start bringing me quilts from there, because they're pretty entrenched in what they already do. So you can't necessarily rely on them. Although I was surprised when I went to the quilt show that there were about 30 quilts with my name on them, but they were all from the same 10 ladies. But yeah, even if you have a strong guild in your community, you still have to work hard for their business. It's not an automatic.
Wise words.
And when you started this journey many years ago, you remember those early days. If you were to, talk to somebody who's trying to start out right now, and there's a lot of, we're looking at all different generations that are coming into the quilting area. But if you were to talk to somebody who's starting out, who didn't have the knowledge that you have right now, and they're just right at the beginning, what would you say would be some of your main advice for them?
Make sure you pay yourself first. Don't give too much away. Make sure that you're taking in money for everything that you do. Even if you're piecing it back or whatever, make sure that's on the invoice, because if you start giving things away at the beginning, people will expect it all the way through.
Don't shortchange yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Well, we have got to the end of our questions, and I think it's been really interesting to hear what both of you have done, the businesses that you have built, and
Yes, it has.
and the success that you've had. I certainly hope that hearing your stories will help other people as they are trying to figure out what kind of business they want to build and what kind of future they want to have. The podcast is something that people can subscribe to on, that way you make sure that you catch every single episode. And so that can be subscribed to. And now we're putting them with video on YouTube. And so if you'd like to see them on YouTube, you can see them there. And I think there's a subscribe button there as well. But I want to thank both of you very much for.
Yeah, and I also wanted to give both of you a chance. How can people get in touch with you? Where would they go online? Kimberly?
Kimmy's Longarm Quilting. .com, on Facebook. Yep, you can find me.
All right. What about you, Lorna?
I'm Quilting by Marlowe. And it was interesting, just the derivative of that name. My girlfriend's name was Margaret, so that's how we came up with the Marlowe. And we were partners. As long as she owned part of the machine, we were partners. And my husband's name is Mark, and so he became the Mar and Marlowe. So yeah, it's Quilting by Marlowe on Facebook.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this evening, and I hope that that this is as good for everybody who listens. And join us back here next week, same time, Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, and we'll have a couple of new guests. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.